Yeah, hello friends. I hope you can hear me clearly. Can you just give a feedback about my audio? Is my audio clear? Okay, fine. So let's begin the session. Um, okay, so this was the position given for training in the previous session for groups 2 to 4. Okay, now this was a game played between Grandmasters Vladimir Kramnik and Peter Svidler, and this was played in a blindfold game, and not just blindfold but blindfold rapid. So you can understand how difficult it could be playing without looking at the board, and here these guys are also doing it with very less time control, and a very interesting game. And finally we reach this position where it is Kramnik and white to play. Now there are few interesting moves possible for white. One of them, which is more attractive, is a4, because it looks like black white is immediately winning a piece because he does not have rook a5, and let's say if I move the rook somewhere, you can easily play rook c5 and win, and there is no rook a5 because of the knight control, right? So it looks like a4 is winning on the spot, but unfortunately black has this shot, and I hope this was not played in any of the training games. This is a trap which had kept. One of the reasons why I gave this position was to see that no one falls in this trap. Now if we move the king away, he can save both the rook and the bishop, so this is not a problem for black. Now we have to take the bishop. Now if I take with the rook, then obviously this comes, and after rook f1 we have this check, and then the rook can move, so black will be an exchange up and he will win. So we can eliminate rook f2, we can eliminate king moving. So that means king f2 is the main option. Let me promote that move. Okay, and here what happens, he plays this check. Now we have two options. One, I can move my king, or I can block the check with my rook. Now if this happens, he has this brilliant move, queen f4. This is something again you're supposed to find, not let it happen on the board. The point is queen is hanging now. If I take queen f4, rook c2, intermediate check, followed by ef4, and black will have an exchange up and he should win. So rook c2 is not working because of queen f4 check, so the only move is king g1, and here it's not over yet because the queen is supporting the pawn, and he simply has an extra piece with a powerful pass pawn on the a file. But black continues with the attack, and if he moves the queen, only way to support, he plays e4. Okay, and there is no way white can move the queen at the same time defend the pawn. So one last trick he can try. The point is, if you take queen h4, then I can move my queen. There is no mate on g2, but again this brilliant move comes to black's aid. Now if rook c1 ef3, again exchange down, right? So black is winning here. So the first thing we have to understand is a4, which looks like a nice move, is actually a blunder. Okay, so now once we rule out a4, what other options do we have if we rule out a4? Now I have analyzed many moves. Let me show one by one. Now if we play queen e2, attacking the rook, and there is no bishop f2 check anymore, right? This is also quite interesting because rook is attacked and bishop is attacked. Now if we place bishop a3, the point is, if I take queen b5, he has bishop c1. then we will reach a position which we will see in the game. Okay, so white can play h4. Now the point is, if he takes queen h4, we take queen b5, and after bishop c1, when I take rook c1, you don't have the queen into c1 because h4, queen h4, that's the whole point of distracting the queen away. Got it? So for queen e2, he has an excellent move, which is e4. This is actually defending the rook indirectly. The point is, if we capture, then this is going to come. We lose the queen. And if I don't capture, then I can move my queen on the next move because the queen will defend the bishop. Okay, so now, if let's say, suppose you do this, now again, I can just move my rook, or I can move my bishop, right? I can just take bishop a3 because the queen is now defending the rook. So queen e2 unfortunately does not work because of e4. And if you can try similar idea with queen d3, and even here the same move, e4 happens. And if you take queen e4, then bishop a3 is going to happen. And if queen b5, bishop f2. This we have seen already. So for both queen e2 and queen d3, black has e4 move. Okay, so it's not queen e2, it's not queen d3, it's not a4. So what other moves are there? Now queen c4 is the other obvious move, which is actually the strongest among all the options we saw. Now what's the difference? What if we play e4? Now compared to d3, now the queen is not under attack. This is one difference. But what is the difference between queen e2 and queen c4? Is there any difference? Yes. Now I can play a4. The point is, when you move the rook, let's say I can take the bishop with my queen, which was not possible if my queen was on e2. Okay, so you see small details. So queen c4, he cannot play e4. So should black simply resign because both the rook and bishop are under attack? No, he has this option, bishop a3. This we have to see. Now rook under attack, and I am threatening rook c5. So if the rook moves somewhere, I can play rook c5. Okay, so queen b5 is forced, and then bishop c1. And now it looks like black is having two extra pawns for nothing because the queen is defending the bishop. But it's not over yet. White has this move, queen c5, beautiful move. One, it is attacking the bishop. I'm going to capture on c1, next move. So you have to move the bishop, and what's the point? He has this move, and knight g6. This is hanging. Okay, now if fg6, it's a mate, so hg6 has to be played. Queen f8 check, king here, and queen f7. And at this point, this pawn is also hanging, so I could play queen f5. Okay, and this position, even though black's pawns are doubled, both the pawns, and he has only one pawn as compensation, so this position eventually should win for white. I'll just give some brief analysis which I had made long ago. And here if you play g5, I can play g3. Okay, and if you take queen h3, now the point is, if I do this, it's a perpetual check and a draw. Okay, so that's the point of queen h3. I can calmly play this move. Now the bishop is hanging. I'm going to take. Now if you give a check, I can come back queen g2. Okay, so now not enough good squares are available. So if I move somewhere like this, then I don't know, maybe queen e4 check, or I can just move my rook as well. Okay, and this should eventually win because the king is too bad. So this position eventually white should win. but instead of g5 he can try some other options. Okay, so this is quite possible. White can by force go to this position with queen c4, but let's see what happened in the game. Kramnik saw this variation, but he was not sure about the assessment of this position because it looks like maybe e4 e3 and some counterplay is possible, right? So let's see what how Kramnik solved this problem. So instead of playing queen c4 directly, he first played h4. Okay, now let us see one by one. Now if I go h6, keeping the rook under attack, because after queen c4, bishop a3, queen b5, he wants bishop c1, right? He has a4. Now the point is, after bishop f2, king f2, this variation which we saw earlier, now it is not working for black because the queen g5 is not attacking. And earlier we saw h4 means queen c1 will come, right? But all those is not possible now. Okay, so this is good for black, sorry, for white. So queen f6 is a blunder because of a4. Okay, and if queen h5 or something, I can still play a4, and again there is no difference for black. So the only move is queen d2. Okay, so I hope some of the players who played the training games, they saw this h4 move. And now again, if a4, the same idea, bishop f2 is working, because now he cannot take king f2. And if rook f2, we already saw queen c1 is winning. So a4 is not working. And if rook c2, then he goes queen d6. Okay, now if you attack the rook, I can simply move the rook away and my bishop is defended. So black is fine. So not a4, not rook c2, but we still have this move queen c4. And now both are under attack. If he supports the rook like this, then this happens. The rook has to move and then queen c5 comes. And now bishop f2, the point is I have rook f2, the queen is defending the rook. So queen b2 is not possible. So he again has to go bishop a3, like we saw in the earlier variation. And now queen b5. Now instead of that, if we play this, he has this move which supports the rook. So this does not work. So queen b5, bishop here, and now queen c5. So the point is, now the bishop cannot come to f4 and create threats against our king. So it has to go to the queen side, and that is only one square for the bishop. And now we reached that same idea which we had seen. So now the difference is we have to compare these two variations. One, let me go up, this position, right, where we have the pawn on h3, bishop on f4. This is one position. The other is what we see here. Now the pawn on h4, but with the bishop and queen away from the scene of action. And we can also play h5, queen e6, both are threatened. Okay, so now if you play queen f4, this should lose. One option is like this, I'm threatening to win this pawn, so you may play e5 and I can come king h2. Now the point is I want to simply come up, and then I will eventually go to the 6th rank and win the h pawn. Okay, my king will find entry. So this should eventually lose. Now if you play g5 to try to come here and stop my king coming up, I can patiently play king h3 as well. Okay, and this position white should eventually win, but it may not be all that easy. Okay, so basically we have to compare both the situations like I showed. whether to include h4 queen d2 or directly play this position. Kramnik felt this is good, and here he played here, and after queen e6, now it is 3 pawns exchange up, and he defended this position well. The queen came back, played g3, consolidate everything, and then the rook came out and white won the game. Okay, so the main point of the training game, main reason why we gave this position is you have to compare playing the queen c4 idea either directly like here or after including h4 and queen c4. Ideally you have to see this queen c5, knight e7, knight g6, and if you have seen that, then whether including h4 helps or not is the other decision we have to take. So I hope this question was interesting enough for the audience and the players. With this we will end the session. I have to take the other class in a few minutes now for the group 5, and in another 15 minutes we will have Grandmaster Magesh Panchanathan. He will be sharing the analysis for group 1 training game. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching today's session. Take care. Bye bye.